Hey there, folks, talking about the birth of factories. Now, the birth of factories, a factory is a place where goods are made. That's kind of important. You really need to know that. So we're going to be making stuff at this time period. There's going to be higher wage in factories than there is on farms. And this is going to be a motivator for people to leave working on their farms, maybe sell their farm, move into the city and work in these factories because the work, they're going to be making more money. It's going to be less necessarily manual labor. It's going to be very hard life in the factory as well, but you're going to have a better quality of life than you would on the farm. You're going to also have more money. So the increased quality of life is going to be a motivator for people to move from the country, rural areas, into the urban city areas working in these factories. As a result of this, though, cities are going to swell to the brink of just overflow with people moving there trying to find jobs. Now, this is going to bring us a number of problems. I want you to think about what are some of the problems that might arise if you have a bunch of people moving to a city in one amount of time. Well, first and foremost, okay, you're not going to really have anywhere for people to go. You're going to have lack of people finding jobs. Okay, there's not going to be enough jobs around. Housing is going to be an issue. Could be have food shortages. Then you have poor city planning, which is going to lead to a number of issues as well, which we will discuss a little bit more later on. Now, we're going to lead to the growth of the cities. It's important to realize that cities are going to develop around factories. Now, think to yourself, why might this be? Why are the cities going to develop around factories? Well, the reasoning is that's where the workers are going to be. The factories are where the workers are working. They want to live close to work because it makes their commute to work much easier. As a result of this, people are going to develop around their factories. Cities are going to develop around factories. Factories are going to develop in clusters simply because you're going to have a number of workers there. Oftentimes, the factories are located around a certain resource like a river, meaning you're going to have multiple factories popping up in the same area. You need to build them near some source of energy. Be this water, because you're going to use water for this, railroad to get people in, mines to get the minerals in, the ore, stuff like that you need to run your factory. These cities are going to pop up around them because that's where the money is going to be at. Additionally, population in cities is going to boom. Now, what problems might arise with a bunch of different people moving into the city at the same time, okay? We're not gonna have enough housing for them. We might not have enough options for people to find work. We're not gonna have enough sanitation, maybe not gonna have enough food. And when these buildings are built, they're not to house them. They're gonna be rushed up because it's more important to get a roof over their head than letting them living out without this. So it's going to cause a number of issues. This is gonna be known as urbanization, which is city building as a movement of people to the cities. So people are gonna move from out in the countries, the rural area, into the city where they're going to urbanize, build these cities up very, very quickly, and they're going to have a lot of issues coming as a result of that. It's important to understand cities had absolutely no development plans. So you might have a school or a building built right next to a dangerous factory. You can imagine some of the situations it might have right there. There's absolutely no sanitary code, so there's not necessarily going to be plumbing in all these buildings, meaning you do your business, you just dump the bucket outside in the window because that way at least it's not in your house. There's also no building codes. Now, building codes are there for a reason. It makes sure if you have an earthquake, the building doesn't fall down. Make sure the wiring, the electrical in there is safe so it doesn't burn your building down. If you don't have all these building codes, you can have a number of issues, really dangerous for those living in the building, and this is going to be happening at this time period. There is a lack of adequate housing. People are not living in actual very safe homes. Education is going to be very, very poor at this time period. They're not really getting much of an education. Kids are going to the factory versus being educated. And there's really no police protection, meaning you can pretty much do whatever you want and have no real ramifications as a result of this. Streets are not paved, which is going to cause a number of problems when it comes to potholes. When it rains, it becomes mud. When it snows, it becomes mud and ice. It's going to be very problematic. There's also no sanitation workers, so there's no one to take out the trash. There's no one to pick up the human waste as well that's going to be piling up on the street, and animal waste. It's really not a very good place to be living. No one wants to live in a muddy area with a lot of human and animal waste just lying around. Not really exactly a good place. Oh, and let's mention, the crime rate is very high. Really good place. I think I'm going to move there. Now, what is life like in the factory? If you work in the factory, you're going to live in these tenements, and tenements are going to be small, poorly built apartments. I'll show you some pictures in a second. Now, because of this, you got a lot of people packed together in a small area. Sickness is going to spread rampantly. This is like when one person in school gets the flu, pretty soon everyone got the flu because they didn't stay home when they came to school. Exactly like that. You're living together in close quarters with people. Everyone's going to be getting sick. One of these that's going to happen is cholera is going to sweep through the slums. Now, cholera causes a fever, intense diarrhea, and it's just a really, really bad way to be living your life. It causes a lot of problems. Cholera is going to sweep through the slums, and the average lifespan in 1842 for working class people in the city is about 17 years. years compared to people in rural areas living to about 38 years. Now, that's roughly a 10, 20-year difference. Okay, that's a long amount of time for people not to be living as a result of this. Okay, it goes to show exactly how dangerous life was in these cities. Now, of course, there's going to be some exceptions to this, but for the most part, life in the factory was very hard, and it was not good. But people were willing to move there because they had a better chance of making a higher quality of life, making more money than they did out on the farm. Now, here's some pictures of the tenements. You can see right here these poorly put together, quickly built apartment buildings. Okay, not exactly the nicest place to be living. You got all this stuff right like this. Here's the inside of one. Okay, this would be the entire tenement for that entire family of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people living together in that small little space, very confined. You got the angry little daughter sitting in the crib right there, and the man in the background. Now, if you're working at the factory, you're gonna have 14 to 16-hour shifts, 6 days a week. These factories are not well lit, so it's gonna be hard to see what you're doing, which can cause a number of issues safety-wise. The machines are going to injure workers on a regular basis. It's also important to realize at this time period, the company is not liable. So if you hurt yourself working in that factory, that company has the legal right to fire you because you can't do your job anymore, and they've got no obligation to help you with your medical bills at this time period. The injured workers are going to get zero help from the government. The most dangerous ones are going to be the coal miners, just because there's a number of frequent accidents, either from cave-ins, fires, or from explosions going off at the wrong times. They're damp, which is going to cause a lot of disease to spread as well. You've got a shorter lifespan, and then women and children are also going to take jobs in these areas because they're looking for cheap labor. Kids are especially useful in a coal mine because they're small. You can shove them down the mine shafts. They can go locations that people could not otherwise. In 1861, it is estimated that 12% of all individuals working in the mining industry were under the age of 15. That is a large percentage of young children working in incredibly dangerous conditions, miles underground possibly. 90% of all individuals who are working in the textile industry were also under the age of 15. This is showing exactly how many children were working in high labor jobs at this time period. That is all for now. If you have any questions, feel free to comment down below, get a hold of me. Otherwise, I will see you later. Good luck.